go through different experiences in our life, both individually and nationally, the place to look is obviously in the Torah, Hafochba v'Afochba, Torah Shebachsav, Torah Shebal Peh. If we look in Sefer Shmuel Aleph, Perek Lamed, at the end of Sefer Shmuel Aleph, we have the story of David HaMelech and his men coming back to the camp where he had left his wives and children, and they come back and they see the whole camp is ransacked. There's nothing left. His wives and children were taken captive by the Amalekis. And what happens? He sits down and Vayivku ad asher ein bohem koach livkos. They cry until they have nothing left to cry. The human reaction, the pain, the suffering that they were going through. But then David HaMelech, Vayischasek David b'Hashem Elokav. He gets up and he says, I have a mission. I have something to do. I have to act. I have to write what happened, whatever is in my ability. Because a Jew cries differently than all other nations. Batya Bas Paro sees Moshe, little Moshe in the basket. And what happens? V'hinei nar bochesh. She sees he's crying, and she says, oh, he's a Jewish baby. How did she know he was a Jewish baby? He was crying, Jewish baby. How did she know? So Chazal have their answer, says the Shalom Rav, the Nasiba Shalom, because a Jew cries differently than other nations. A Jew doesn't cry a bechi shel yeyush, but a bechi shel tikva. A bechi, a cry of hope. For thousands of years, we've cried, but it's a cry of looking ahead, a cry of looking forward, because that's what we do. It's interesting, if you look at the background of David HaMelech's lineage, where did David HaMelech come from? Lot and his daughters, Yehuda and Tamar, Rus and Boaz. This is David HaMelech's lineage. What's the message? There's a pattern here. What's the common denominator in those stories? Various suggestions. Says Rav Soloveitchik, in all of those stories, it looked hopeless. It was a bleak situation. Everybody could have just given up. Forget it. Yeyush. But in each of the stories, in those three stories that happened to be women, we will not accept the reality as is. We're going to do our best to deal with it and to move forward and to see what we can do to be mashpia. Lot's daughters and Tamar and Rus represented seeing the light in the darkness, seeing the hope and seeing the potential future in an impossible situation in the reality of the present. That's the basis for Malchus Beis David. Malchus Beis David is Geula, is the destiny of Klal Yisrael, and that's the message that's needed. The destiny of Klal Yisrael, darkness and then light. As we have seen throughout Jewish history, Vayhi Erev Vayivoker, what we learned on that terrible day a week plus ago, there was darkness, but there's going to be Boker. After the Churban Beis HaMikdash, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi wrote the Mishnah. After the Crusades, Rahman al-Islam, at the beginning of the 11th century, then came the development of the Rishonim, the greatest development of Torah Shebal Peh, those couple hundred years. After the Spanish expulsion, Bnei Yisrael started coming back to Eretz Yisrael in the 1500s. After Rahman al-Islam, the Shoah, the greatest of tragedies. Just 3 years later, the unbelievable miracle of the birth of the state of Israel. Unbelievable light after darkness. And after this darkness, we daven and we pray and we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to help bring light through our hishtadlus, behind all of our soldiers, before all our chayalim, which I have the schus of having a number of my children on the front lines, but Hashem, they should all be safe. They should all have siyata d'shmaya, and we daven for the day. Very soon, B'ez Hashem, that will be tremendous light, commensurate with the darkness that we experienced. We should have the light very soon. B'mheira v'yamin.